So my name is Sarina. I'm the creator of Breakthrough Public Speaking, and I help. Hello, thank you very much. So I help a business owner speak with confidence, clarity, and impact. Hello, this is fantastic. Okay, there are people out there. This is wonderful. So as I said, I help people speak with confidence, clarity, and impact on camera for videos, webinars, and virtual events, including keynote speeches. Okay, so one of the areas that I focus on is being true to yourself, being an authentic speaker. Okay, and the importance of being confident in your life. And I mean true confidence, not just a confidence that's a display of who you think you're meant to be being. Okay, does anyone relate to that? Tell me yes if you relate to that. Do you think you need to be someone else or look a different way or be a different way when you speak in front of others? Yeah. Okay, and this is a big one. Okay, and I believe that, yep, debatable, that the more you feel confident about who you are and the person you want to present to the world, then the more confident you'll feel in every area of your life. So just a bit of a story to begin with. I'm someone who used to have an anxiety disorder when I was growing up as a kid. And I put a lot of work into overcoming my fears. And so eventually I decided to even overcome my fear of public speaking. And this is what I do now, help people with their confidence, but not only their confidence, their skills. Because one of the things about public speaking is it's really not taught so much at school. So before doing what I'm doing, I used to be a GCSE English language tutor. And I happen to know that within the curriculum, as you know, there's not a lot of work on public speaking. Has anyone actually had any or many lessons in school or anywhere else that's taught them how to do presentation skills? Have you done that? Anyone here? Okay, a fair bit. Yes, but they were very nerve-wracking a few times at uni, a little at uni. Okay, brilliant. So I'm glad that there's been some start already. That's fantastic. Okay, so what we need to do is if we want to be confident about speaking in front of others, then it's about learning. So this is where competence leads to confidence. Okay, does that make sense? That competence will naturally lead to confidence. The point is there's generally not much focus on learning presentation skills. So it's a bit like asking someone to drive when they have no clue actually how to drive a car. That would be nerve-wracking because you just don't know how to do it. So there's lots of little myths about public speaking. And the truth is, huge amount of confidence will come just from learning the skills themselves. Okay, but there are also other ways that you can learn to overcome your fears, and I'm going to touch on that as well. But the main thing I'd like to know is, for instance, in your areas, what do you think? Why do you need presentation skills? Why do you think that's important for you in your careers? So let me know in the chat box. What do you think? And is it for work? Is it to start your own business, game pitches, business deals, marketing? Yep, thank you, Adrian. So that's fantastic. Yes, thank you, Mantooth, to be able to convey your ideas in a way that they can be understood and to give people confidence in them. Absolutely. Yes. So if you're confident about what you're saying, other people will be confident too. Okay, it follows, doesn't it? It makes sense. And we all know it makes sense. Okay, so we know that deep inside, but sometimes it's just hard to be and feel more confident. So I'm going to give you a few key pointers for you to get started. So for instance, let's work on the ideas that have been shared so far. Let's think about you pitching ideas. So what do you need to know about that? What's important? Okay, so the first thing you need to know, and this applies to any form of public speaking and presentation skills, the first thing is knowing your audience. Yeah, so you need to know who it is you're marketing to, who it is you're trying to persuade, and learn as much as you can about them. And so when you share a story, for instance, let's say that's going to come later as well, the power of stories, you share a story, then they're going to be moved by it because they can relate to your story or they can relate to your message. So you need to know your audience really, really well. And this goes for any business. For instance, in my business, I need to know exactly what the problems are that business owners face when speaking on camera. And this is what I had to do a lot of research in. This is what I make notes on when I'm working with clients. So they often say, in fact, it's mostly confident people that come to me as a presentation coach. And in fact, in a Forbes article in the Forbes magazine, it said something about The types of people who go to presentation coaches are genuinely confident people, which I think is a shame. I think it should be a bit more inclusive than that. Because I truly believe that everyone can become a confident speaker. Whether you've got anxiety, whether you're an introvert, whether you're shy, everyone can still become a confident, charismatic, dynamic speaker. It's just about learning the skills. Okay. So going back to my clients then, they're genuinely confident people who can speak in front of a crowd, even thousands actually, with no problem in person, but they have a meltdown when it comes to speaking on camera. Okay, the awkwardness of being on camera, not having a live audience, not seeing their audience, or maybe it's a pre-recorded video. So has anyone tried this, doing some kind of webinar or a video and just done something on camera? And how did that go for you? Just type in the chat box your experience. Did you do a video? Has anyone here done video? Has anyone here done a webinar? Maybe a pitch already, all on camera, and how did that go? Video interview. Okay, because video interviews can be really scary because you get very, very little feedback. A video, and I don't know where to look. Yeah, I used to stream with no viewers and having to talk to myself. I don't want pretending people aren't already there. Yes, lots of video conversations during uni, and some for assessments with uni that required a video presentation. Yes, absolutely. So you're already starting, and you're a new generation because previously people didn't have to do this too much. But now, since COVID, it's much more common. Okay, and this is going to be our world from now on. Okay, didn't get the job, but was granted it. Used to do stream, so have confidence, sort of. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so I think we can all see that speaking on camera is an essential skill now. It didn't used to be, but it really is now. We just can't deny it. The future is going to be videos. It's going to be online presentations so that you can, present to a company in New York, in Japan. You don't have to travel there. You can do all kinds of things. And think about how you will be personally, if you had confident presentation skills, how you'll be set aside from everyone else. What difference do you think it would make in your life? Because we've seen some indication here about getting jobs, haven't we? Like, and where do you look? Where actually do you look? So my advice is, when you're speaking on camera, the main thing is that you speak into the camera. So don't try to look at your audience, the virtual audience, but look into the camera. Okay, so that is making eye contact. So if you're in an in-person environment, then eye contact is really important to the people in the room. When it's online, then what eye contact means is looking into the camera. Okay, and you'll often need to experiment as to actually where that is. If you're using a phone, it's a bit easier, but if you're using a laptop, then for instance, I recommend using a webcam rather than your inbuilt camera because it's of a better quality. So if you use your webcam, then it's much better quality. You look better and so on. But then if you look straight into the barrel of the camera, because it's a wide lens, it looks like you're looking above the camera. So you need to work out, where is it that looks like you are making eye contact, and just practice it. Nothing comes naturally. Okay, how do you do eye contact without staring at you vibes? Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. So my advice about eye contact is, and again, some people, when they hear, look into the barrel of the camera, look into the camera to make eye contact, they just stare 100% of the time. And I mean, you wouldn't do that when you meet someone, right? That would be weird because you totally freak them out. So if you are meeting someone, you wouldn't just stare at their eyes the whole time. So speaking, public speaking is exactly the same. You don't have to stare all the time. Yeah, don't do like a staring contest in the interview. That's right, exactly. Because that is not what anyone wants. So be natural is the key. Yeah, this is probably the best advice I would give to anyone. Be natural. Speak in your natural way, in your natural tones. Like I'm speaking naturally now. This is how I would speak to a friend. This is how I speak all the time. So yeah, you could give a wing. It depends on the context. Okay. But what I would suggest when you're thinking about eye contact is look at the camera most of the time, exactly as you would in a conversation. So you look at them most of the time, but sometimes you look away from time to time. That would be normal. So that's the thing. Yeah. And yes, it can only become natural through practice. Absolutely. Some people think that the more they rehearse, the more unnatural they'll become. Does anyone think that the more you rehearse, the more unnatural you become? Let me know. Yes, so that's the opposite. The more you rehearse, the more natural you will become. Okay, it's the opposite of what we think. Is posture? Yes. So posture is important. I'm sorry I can't show my posture now, but one of the things that I do and I feel really important in any presentation is to stand. So right now I am standing. I do not sit for any of my presentations, including online. Even though you can only see from my shoulders upwards, I do not sit. I only ever stand. And there are so many reasons for that. Again, I can't just show you on my screen, but if I could, I would show you that what we have is a box, which is our stage, and we can move around on that box. Yeah, so we can go forwards, we can backwards, we can go from side to side, all kinds of different ways in which we can use movement on our screen. Whereas if we're sitting, we can't. Also, when you stand, you sound more confident, your voice sounds more strong, and so on. You can also use hand gestures better because you've got more freedom of movement. And overall, standing is more energizing. I know that as soon as I sit down in a chair, I'll just slump. My voice will sound much weaker and I won't sound as convincing or as dynamic. Okay, so standing, yes, have that strong posture, have a good posture when you present in any context. So yes, again, we've got another comment here. For sure, you really know what you need to know what you're talking about. That's absolutely true. So having your good eye contact without having a staring contest, having some good body language and posture and so on. I recommend standing and know your topic. So once you know your audience, you need to know your topic backwards. And that's how you benefit from rehearsing, do it in front of, get some feedback from some friends. Feedback is so important. Okay. When you get feedback, you can learn what you did well and what you need to improve. So here is the secret about improvement. Okay. And you can apply this to any area of your life. Everyone needs feedback. Okay. So if you want to be a good speaker on camera, you need to know how you're looking, how you're sounding. Is it what you're saying convincing and does it make sense? Okay. But if, for instance, you're not, then you need to know about it, right? And sometimes in our own head, we can think, yes, I'm brilliant, but no one else thinks that. So if that's the case, we need to know about that. We really do. So when you first see yourself on camera, I'd just like to say that it is very natural. In fact, I've never met anyone who hasn't had this reaction to cringe a bit. Tell me if this has been your experience. When you've seen yourself back on camera, do you cringe? And let me know if you didn't and you're like, no, I look great. Okay. Yes, that's a good point about the filler words getting weeded out, by the way. I've just seen that. Thank you very much. So yes, this is very, very common. And again, so everyone's saying yes. So when you hear your own voice and when you see yourself back, then it is odd, it's weird, and it can be really, really off-putting. Okay, so this is something to really work through. And what I will say is it is a process. So when you see yourself first, what's this? Glad you brought this topic because I wanted to ask this. How do you time manage a career demanding as a 3D game film industry, but balance your mental health? Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, we're going to get to that. That's a fantastic question. We're also going to have some questions towards the end as well because I want to get more time for discussion because this is really, really important. I want to know what your thoughts and ideas are. So we will get on to that. But actually thinking about this at the moment, because I do think it's very important for everyone that it's about having a balanced approach. So linking this to when you see yourself back on camera, you can really have a meltdown, I think, when you first see yourself back. I know I did, the first time I saw myself back. It was a speech I asked a friend to record when I won. I was at a Toastmaster meeting and I did a speech and I won the best speaker of the evening. Everyone loved my speech. A friend recorded it. I look back on it. I was so shocked. What? Way? No one told me I looked like that. I sounded like that. No, it was just terrible. But then what I did is I put together a group of friends who are also presentation, who are also professional speakers or speakers in some aspect in their lives, in their work. I put together a mastermind group and gave each other feedback. And this really changed it for me, getting that feedback. Because what you want to do is you want to start off first by Well, everyone starts off in the same place. Okay, this is important to know. So when you don't feel isolated, you don't feel you're the only one. That's very important to know that you are not the only one. And the more you talk about it, just get it out there, then the better it will be for everyone, because you'll feel, you can laugh at it. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Brilliant. So you can just discuss that and talk about it with your friends. So then get some feedback. So you start off, when you see yourself back on camera, you cringe, you recognize that's natural and normal. Okay, and then just try to accept the feelings that arise. Don't need to fight them or push them away or repress them. Just like, oh, okay, there are those feelings. They just feel really uncomfortable. And don't worry about it. Just know that it's a process. But one of the best things to do to take a step forward is to get some feedback. So get feedback from someone to tell you what are my strengths and what could I improve on. And be careful who you choose. Don't choose someone who's going to tell you you're wonderful at everything, but also don't choose someone who's critical of you. So there needs to be a balance. Ideally, choose someone who knows something about speaking on video and speaking skills and so on. So get this feedback, and then the journey is that at the end point of this is overall, mostly you will be able to watch yourself more or less objectively. So you can watch your video back or an interview back. I always recommend getting everything recorded so you can self-evaluate and say to yourself, okay, this is what I did well, and this is the areas I need to improve. Boom, there we go. That's your feedback. Then you can be the person who helps yourself improve your own skills. And this also gives you confidence, because let's say you're invited to speak somewhere, then what you can know is that you did a good job, and you'll have that confidence. I have developed my speaking skills. I know I did a good job then. Okay, so that will give you confidence. But let's go back to mental health as well in this, because that's again what I teach in all my coaching, which is we need to look after our mental health. So I'll tell you a story. When I first left university, I actually dropped out of my third year of my PhD. I decided academia wasn't for me. And then I became a research assistant at Bournemouth University. And I liked that job, but one of the things I had to do was presentations in front of everyone in conferences. I remember my first conference ever, and the professor asked me, are you fine speaking in front of people? And no one was talking about the fear of public speaking in the academic circles that I was in at that time. And I felt I had to just say, yeah, it's fine, because I wanted to do well in my career and so on. So I said, yes, that's great, because I wanted everything to be okay. But inside, of course, I wasn't. So she said, fantastic, I'd like you to present at this conference. So that's absolutely no problem. I'd love to do that. So presenting at this conference, minutes before, I was in the loo and it just crying. I said, full of stress and nerves. And then I had to go and present. I presented and everyone said, wow, what a fantastic job. The professor that I was assistant to was very happy with it and complimented me. But then afterwards, I felt wrecked. I felt so traumatized. I thought, is that really worth it? So what I never teach is just go out and traumatize yourself. I just don't believe in it. So it's about working through a process. So it's about understanding your fears. Okay, so I have a little process of understanding your fears, which I'll share with you. Well, the first step anyway, the first step, and please take this on board. Everyone needs to know this, because there are so many myths about overcoming the fear of public speaking, mainly because I think it's the whole, all the ideas of overcoming your fear of public speaking, I think, has been written by people who are not nervous and don't have anxiety and are maybe extroverts, because the what I hear is just not right. Some people will say the most common bit of advice, you might have heard it yourself, is to imagine your nerves is like excitement and just go for it, embrace the excitement. That's really the wrong advice for someone who's very anxious. That's the right advice if you've got very low levels of anxiety and you're feeling more excited, that's fine. But when you're feeling more anxious or you're on the verge of panic, that's absolutely the wrong advice. So it would be taking smaller steps forward and building up to bigger speaking engagements. And there are no steps that are too small. Even taking a video and just seeing it yourself, that's a step forward. Okay, and then you can gradually go from there. Then show it to a friend, then show it to a group of friends, then post it on social media or whatever. But there needs to be lots of steps in between first. So that's one way of looking after our mental health, being honest about what it is our fears are, identifying them clearly, because each fear will have a completely different solution. Okay, this is so, so essential. If you're frightened of going blank, for instance, or if you're fear of the technology going wrong, if you fear being judged, or if you fear you'll mess up, those are all completely different fears that require different solutions. Okay, so what are some of the things that you felt before about, what makes you frightened about speaking in front of others? What are your fears? If you want to share them, then go ahead. One of my fears when I first started, I'll go first, but I'd love to know your thoughts, is I was feared of having a panic attack, because that's what happened to me when I was 8 years old. And when I was on a stage, I had a panic attack. So my whole life, I avoided presentations because I thought that would happen. Okay, so freezing and brain stops. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that one. And technology. Yeah, that's one for me too, Monica, believe me. Okay. So yeah, these are real fears. And can you see the two that have been written there are completely different. So of course they would require completely different solutions. Yeah. So yeah, looking stupid in front of people, absolutely. I think that's probably one that we can all relate to as well. Feel like less of a fear, but more of knowing when to stop as well, while also not trying to keep filling a bunch of R's. Yeah. Yeah, so the saying that too many as is about being okay with a pause, being okay with silence. And in all honesty, your audience will most likely welcome a silence. So don't be afraid of them. A pause is absolutely fine. Going off on a tangent, yes, which is why we need to try to keep focused. Okay, so this is great. Some of you are already starting to identify your fears. Let's wait for a few more to come in, because this is what we're talking about. This is the thing that often people don't want to talk about. It's about just not wanting to let on that you feel frightened about something, or seemingly it's a weakness. But my personal view is sharing your fears is actually a strength, because it takes a lot of courage. Anyone can hide, but not everyone can share what it is they're worried about. Such when I'm nervous or excited and get nervous. And I get nervous, it'll happen when I'm around people presenting. Yes, I work with quite a few people with various speech impediments. Stutter is one of those. And yeah, it's about really knowing how to calm yourself down. So one of the techniques that I use is meditation. I've been meditating for 22 years, and that's what's calmed my nervous system down. But different things work for different people, like yoga, or some people do that with running. For me, it's meditation. But a simple practice is, for instance, deep breathing. So if you're about to present, then calm your system down. Okay, so one of the things that I'm not too into is just positive thinking. Just tell yourself you'll be wonderful, and you'll be wonderful. Because almost trying to present this without stumbling. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing, Jordan. Yeah, this is ever so common, so we can always feel not alone with this. Yes, we don't want to add too much information as well, which is why it's important to keep a good structure. Okay, so what I would suggest is learning to accept your feelings. This is the big one. Okay, this is what I've learned myself when I was training myself to overcome panic attacks, which I haven't had one in over 10 years anyway. It's about learning to accept feelings, not fighting with them, just allowing them to accept, acknowledging them without judgment, and then you can you feel more peaceful within. There's no inner conflict. When people say about all this sort of positive thinking, I do obviously believe in positive thinking too, but it's just about how you use it. You don't want to slap on a whole bunch of positive thoughts on top of, anxiety, nerves, and all kinds of things. You want to first acknowledge the anxiety and nerves, and then you can go on to the next step. Okay, so there are stages, and I recommend for everyone just to explore that more, to work through those stages. Okay, so now I've talked about really in the context of giving a business pitch, you're needing to know your audience, but you're also through in a few skills like posture, speaking on camera, using your good eye contact, but also about overcoming that fear, because of course this is probably the biggest one for so many. Okay. Yes, Jordan did do a great job. In fact, I never would have noticed that he felt nervous about it. I know I certainly have. Time and time again, people have said, "Oh yeah, that was brilliant," or I've seen other people or people I've been coaching where they've said, "Oh my goodness, I was so nervous," and I honestly would not have picked it up at all. So I think that's something very important to remember. Yeah, that's a brilliant comment, Monica. Thank you for sharing. I was very nervous while presenting, but people were impressed with my confidence, and I was so confused. This is such a common experience. And I think it's important to contemplate this, to think that other people overall will likely see us as being confident. This is ever so common, but it's still up to us to acknowledge how we feel and to build authentic confidence. So that's what I truly believe. Developing authentic confidence, not the confidence that just is there for show. I know the feeling. Yeah, I've tried that too. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't believe in just teaching people to be these confident presenters and then inside they're crumbling. Okay, it's about really getting inside. And this is not going to happen overnight. It's something that we all need to take an inner journey to do. Comment earlier was about mental health, looking after our mental health and being authentically confident. So actually confident inside by working on our issues, by using meditation or therapy, whatever it is to help support us in our journey. And it is certainly not a weakness. These are all strengths. Anyone who has the courage to look within, to face their fears, rather than to run away from them or put on an act, is being brave and is being courageous. Now, would you say that's true? Do you agree with that? Do you agree it takes courage to look at those feelings inside? And in reality, once we have the courage, everything else will fall into place. I can remember I was doing game design as my teacher. That was my one. Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. That's a great example here. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, again, getting feedback is so important. So they give you some light criticism just to check that you knew what you were talking about. That's brilliant. And that's exactly that something like that is very healthy and very beneficial. Okay, so I'm actually going to say a little bit as well about more on skills, like for instance, when you pitch. So I've put a few in there, but just to add more to it, I'd like to say about, being clear on, of course, your audience, but then structuring your presentation. So this goes back to really basic skills we even learn at school and college, which is everything needs a beginning, a middle, and end. Okay, it's the same principle. So one thing that really catches people out, I think, or where business owners in particular let themselves down, is they'll introduce themselves first. Let's say at a networking meeting, or let's say at a networking meeting, often people are introduced, but then they say their name. But in reality, everyone knows their name. And it's likely, you meet with the same networking group every month, you know who those people are. So why not start with a bang? Okay, so it doesn't have to be complicated, but start bold. Start with a question, a bold statement, just one word. So it could be, let's say I'm doing a presentation on, public speaking skills. I could start off by asking a question like, what are you afraid of? Or public speaking, something that's feared by so many. A statement or even statistics. Or you probably heard the famous survey that was conducted many years ago that found that more people feared death more than public speaking. So by shocking statistic, then you introduce yourself. Okay, and this little formula you can apply to everything for a good structure. Your bold opening to hook in your audience, because you've got that first 30 seconds really to hook in your audience. That's the key. Have your bold opening. Then you can introduce yourself, your topic, what you're doing. Okay, but first is the being bold. Then you go into your actual topic. You can it starts a conversation and gets things going, doesn't it? So you can bring in your points, and 3 is a magic number in public speaking. 3 is a great number because for whatever reason, the human brain loves 3. Okay, so if you create a structure to your talk in 3s, then this will be much more powerful for people to learn. So today, although I started in a different way because I was starting to respond to a chat. My first bit was about knowing your audience and why we need to be able to do our pitch and overcome our fears. And then the next is about our skills, so developing some public speaking skills. And what we'll look at next is the power of a story. Okay, so those are a little group of 3. So if you were to create a structure, think about what you could do, and then have, most importantly as well, have a powerful, impactful ending. Okay, so don't be too abrupt, but also don't waffle until people are thinking, when is this going to end? So bring it to an impactful ending. It can be a call to action, a powerful statement, a rhetorical question. So if you get the structure down, then it's just about filling the rest in. And if you do choose to use slides, then again, something that can really set you aside from anyone else is to avoid the whole death by PowerPoint thing. Has anyone heard of that? I'm sure you have. Has anyone been victim to the death by PowerPoint? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, new one to you. Yes, I've been victim and proponent. Yeah, brilliant. So we've received it and we've done it. So loads of business owners are still doing this. And yet within the business world, people know this is not a good way to engage your audience. If you use slides, then use them wisely. So have color. If you already have your graphic skills, then create a nice graphic and just have maybe one question on it. So just have maybe a question and a slide, or show something visually, but don't have just like the blank screen with bullet points, because this is really what puts people off. Just bullet point after bullet point. And the truth is, the human brain can't do 2 things at once. It can't read and listen. So people are either going to be reading your slides or listening to you. So the choice is yours. What do you want them to do? And when we're presenting, we need to be in control of what we want people's focus to be on. If you want them to be on us, then be careful about how you use slides. And also you can add color, make them a bit more engaging, and this will help. And use your slides as well. A lot of people that I've worked with admit they use slides to help themselves get through it, so they can put themselves in a really small box by the side of the screen, and so everyone can just look at the slide and they won't look at them. But that is not about your audience. Okay, the guiding principle in presentation skills is think about your audience. They come first. What do they need right now? So instead of thinking, I could use slides so that no one will see me, think, how could I use slides to convey my message with impact? Okay. Is this making sense so far? You're getting that? Will you change the way you use your PowerPoints? Because if you did this in interviews in particular, or, oh my goodness, anything that you did, you will really start to stand out from the crowd. And in my honest opinion is that it won't take much, because everyone's doing this. The whole, no death via PowerPoint, thank you. Don't do it. Don't do it. So if we get it right, then it will be easy for us to stand out. Yes, very good. Make fancy PowerPoints unique and stylish and sparingly. Very well put. That's absolutely true. Okay, and then you can think about your body language. Obviously, I can't show you anything on the screen today, but think about how you use your facial expression and your gestures, especially on camera. With online audiences, you do need to work harder because you're not in the room with them. So you do need to think about, because your face is one of the only things people see, then think about your facial expression. How does that add to your message? And your gestures, think about raising them a little bit higher so they're within the camera frame. It all counts. And when you do this, you will just look and sound so much more professional, and it will not take too much to stand out. Because so many people now are just looking sort of downwards in the camera. They're not having any facial expression, or they're speaking in monotone, because that can be a real side effect of anxiety. But if you do the complete opposite of that, you really stand out, then this will make a huge difference for you if you're interviewing in particular, or delivering a presentation. Okay. So those are some skills that you can think about. There are just so many others, but there isn't the capacity to go through this at the moment. But what I'm going to do is leave some time at the end for, so write down whatever questions as we go along, because Now we'll have some questions at the end so we can discuss more. Okay. But I'm going to leave that now for the actual presentation skills. So thinking about your structure, thinking about your body language, and earlier we talked about, for instance, posture and eye contact. These are very important points. I will actually add in, just because there are a few comments about ums and ahs, I will add in there as well. Think about your pace, pitch, and pauses. So if you're thinking about delivering something and you have a tendency to go to fill the gaps, then make concerted effort to use pauses. Don't worry about a pause. Pauses are healthy, they're good. And there are ways that you can train yourself to say less, believe it or not. There's lots of ways to do this, but one thing is to think about, well, one is not being afraid of silence. That's one thing. But the second is actually thinking about why you say in the first place, which is effectively you are thinking with your mouth open. Do you agree with that? You are thinking with your mouth open. So the idea is that when you're thinking or pausing, just close your mouth and that won't come out. So if you have those two things, one, you're at peace with silence. Did you hear that? Nothing wrong with that, right? So a little pause, like that was even like a millisecond. You could even pause for longer. Nothing wrong with a bit of silence. And then think about why you're saying it, which is, thinking with your mouth open. Just start slowly humming to oneself. It's a good one. Okay. So now I'd like to go on to my third point, which is power of a story. So everyone seems to be talking about stories at the moment. Maybe we're thinking, oh my goodness, what does that actually mean? Is it like once upon a time? So people don't really mean that kind of story. So what do you think? So if you were to deliver a pitch, what kind of story do you think you could share when pitching a business idea? How would you use the power of a story to pitch a business idea? I'd like to hear from you first. Share some of your ideas. Have you thought of this before? What could you say? What could you use, and why? Actually, no, we'll go on to the second question in a minute. So I just have to get a drink. Relatable experience to give the idea context. Yes, exactly. For a game, I treat it like a book. Show title, the concept of the cover, and the blurb. Okay. That's a great idea. Yes, that's very creative. Okay, so I think the relatable experience is the key. Okay, that's why we tell a story. Oh, be careful with that phone then. You need to really think about how could, I remember my roots on Dragon's Den. Okay, yes. You need to think about how your message can be portrayed through the use of a story. So the story can be about so many different things. And for any business, it's good to have a collection of stories so that you can bring them out at any point, depending on what message it is you want to share. All right. So when I want to share the idea about looking after your mental health or the importance of overcoming your fear of public speaking, I use my own story about the first job that I had as a research assistant. Okay, so I share that story so that people can relate to that experience and also know why I feel it's important and what my main message is about. Okay, so think about what messages you actually want to share. So they can be about you, your journey, and your why. So the big why behind what it is you do. It can also be about what you do. So what is the product? How did it come about? How did you develop it? What are there some funny stories maybe that linked to the whole journey, to the whole process? So anything. So we all have stories. Every day is a story. Every day something happens, right? Every day there's a story. That's being creative and how we use those. Stories also about others, like your clients or people you've worked with. Thinking about what it is they wanted from you, because then your prospects can relate to the stories you tell about your clients. They're called case studies, right? I guess it also helps shape the point and adds to the authenticity, Adrian. Yes, for sure. It's really important because people can see you as a human being. And in our presentation skills, this is important. We need to put the humanness across, that we are a human being above everything else. Because as we know, the old term, people buy from people, right? It's not about just a faceless label. That doesn't work for business. It is about people. So something that you could do as a practical exercise, just to take away from this, I think, is think about some stories. Write down, just brainstorm. You don't need to write it out word for word. Just obviously, just a few pointers will do. Write out those stories and see what works and what helps you to share your message. So just bringing all this together, because I like to leave some time for discussion to hear more about you and what your thoughts are and any questions. We've looked at why presentation skills are important, and some tips about overcoming your fears. So take some time to just reflect on your fears. What is it that you're afraid of? Then you can more easily work out the steps forward. So if you're more fearing a panic attack, then it's working on anxiety. If you're more fearing not knowing what to say, then it's about working out your content and so on. Okay, so but first step, identify your fears. Then work on your presentation skills. So do a video. These days it's so easy just to go on Zoom, for instance, record yourself, or on your phone. So either your laptop or your phone, record yourself and just do a video and watch it back. Then show it to someone, get some feedback. With interviews, for instance, predict the questions and then tell a story. It's like a mini 2-minute speech when you answer a question, a little story that you tell. Because effectively that's what they're asking. Tell us a time when you successfully managed a team, or whatever it is that they ask you. It's often a story. So rehearse it. Be well prepared. So don't just think presentation skills are just going to happen. Learn them, practice them, rehearse. It takes effort to do it, but the rewards are extraordinary. Because of course it brings so much benefit to business, so much benefit, and you will, because there are lots of people who shy away from speaking on camera in particular, or just any time for any form of public speaking. It's an easy way to stand out from the crowd, in all honesty. It really is. So then think about the power of a good story. Write out some of the stories that you can have. In particular for interview at your stage, you're going for interviews. What stories can you tell? Rehearse those stories, fine tune them so that you deliver them with impact and even with humor. That's an emotion that if you can connect with, you can really get your audience on board. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I've covered and that I would like to invite you to explore yourself, so that you can be the confident presenters that you want to be, and you can maximize the chances of the success of your business, your pitch, and your ideas.